Guilty, how hard is it going to be to keep Tommy Edman out of the lineup?
Oh, I don't have plans to keep him out of the lineup. I don't know what your lineup looks like, but
Good answer.
all right.
How does he develop into a hitter with power from both sides of the plate when most of his minor league history didn't suggest that he had that kind of power?
Yeah, you know what? This guy, me and Ollie were talking about actually during BP today, and it's not that it's part of his game, but this guy does have some pop in his bat, and I do think you've seen guys develop as they progress in their careers. As an example, Jimmy Evans wasn't a big minor league power guy, ended up hitting a ton of home runs and big home runs. I think it's part of learning the strike zone, learning who you are as a hitter, which Tommy knows who he is. He's a smart hitter. He's got a plan. He's also an aggressive hitter. But one thing that we've started to see, talking about process, so we've seen Tommy towards the end of last year, spring training, now summer camp, he's been able to get in the zone a little bit more. So his walk rate's gone up, his chase rate's gone down, and then it gets back to just holistically how we think about our offense and what Ted Williams said about hitting, getting a good pitch to hit, number one thing to hitting. So Tommy's getting more good pitch to hit. And he's learning to, look to just put a good swing on it. The power will come a little bit more consistently, but not what we're looking for necessarily, but clearly a part of his game.
How'd you like Waino's outing tonight?
Oh, he got better as he went. Made pitches when he needed to. Had a couple close misses. The ball Tommy hit out on him was a really, really good changeup that he put a good swing on a really tough pitch. So I thought Waino was exactly what we'd expect out of him, and he's getting ready for Saturday.
Hey, Mike, was having a full defense behind Waino about him wanting to have sort of that more game-like feel, or about you guys wanting to see guys at spots maybe? Because there were a couple of different subtle things in some of the alignment.
Yeah, it was mostly about, and it wasn't about. Waino didn't suggest it. We wanted to make sure we put a defense behind him to create as lifelike, competitive game as possible. So that was, and it gave a guys a chance to move around a little bit defensively.
Hey, Shildt, can you tell us a little bit more about the discussion you guys had before today's workout with social justice and equality and all that?
Yeah, it was fantastic, and and then I'll bring up DeMar, the gentleman's name, because it escapes me right now. I had it written down in my office, but it was fantastic to just create an opportunity from the organization. Something the clubhouse is interested in as well. Obviously, the movement, but really today was more about education, about where this movement has started from, how we got to this point, how we can think about creating an awareness for ourselves individually, and then collectively where this can think about going and how we can do our part to help it get there and to elicit the change necessary for unification of equality of all people and just everybody having a fair shot at life, really, in an even playing field, just like we ask for every time we get out on the field. Same thing off the field. We just want people to have the freedom and opportunity and the even playing field from the very starting point of people's lives and as they progress in life. So they alluded on that, and I thought it was outstanding. And we're going to follow up a little bit more tomorrow in our internal clubhouse and just talk through it a little bit.
Is that an organization thing or a clubhouse thing? I know you mentioned both, but whose idea, I guess, was it to bring him in?
It was a combination. Look, there's a lot of people in every area. In our clubhouse, the players, very, Dexter, Jack, Willie, had some good conversation with Willie about it, and just making sure that we did our part. But the clubhouse, and that's just a few names, and clubhouse is open to it, and so us working in concert with them, and then the front office and Mo putting it together to where it's more of a formal setting for players and staff, and it was a wonderful, well spent 45 minutes.
Shildt, to back a question about defense, we can all see the numbers about like run probability and run expectancy in the extra innings and what having a runner at second with no outs means. How much can you do defensively to reshape those numbers? Is that as much a priority as when we talk about the fundamentals of bunting or moving a guy over?
Reshape the numbers for that specific situation, or?
Yeah, that's specific. Like, what are there things you can do defensively that you think will change those numbers against you?
Based on what we've done in the past, or just in general?
Just, I know I'm talking from the void here. So
Yeah, no, we can slide you over so I can see you.
yeah, they shut the video off. I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry. Just in the sense of what we've seen you practice, you know, I wonder how much you can do defensively against that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly that's a defined situation. But everything we've done is to define ourselves irrespective of situation, to understand how to defend that situation. And there's layers to it. There's different things that'll take place based on guys are going to bunt, so we need to make sure we have a bunt play. Make sure we know we're going to tag right there. There's a tag play at third. Make sure we know speed of runners. We have different things we can do, and candidly, not that it's a super trade secret, but not going to share everything on how we will defend it, because there's a strategy to it, right? There's a strategy and a counter strategy. So, but basically, it's just like everything we do, and specific to this example is we are prepared for every possible scenario within that situation, and then make sure that we're practicing enough that we can execute it and give us the best chance based on the multitude of variables that can come into play, because that situation is in a silo, but it's not in a silo with the moving parts of who's hitting, who's on deck, who's running, and then, whether home or road, or, who's in the bullpen behind that. So, we constantly create every scenario to give us our best chance to defense against giving a run up, including holding runners.
Are you happy that every game from now on will be 9 innings starting tomorrow night?
Yeah, working on the pitching now. I mean, we could be a scenario where it could be an 8 inning, but we're not going to force 9 to force it with our pitching. But yeah, I'm excited to see a 9 inning contest like we all are, and know that moving forward, that's what we're looking at.
We're looking at Hudson and Kim as 2 of the pitchers tomorrow.
So that's a good question. So I'm ready to make a few announcements you may or may not be interested in, but I'd be surprised if you weren't. So Dakota's going to be our number 3 starter, and then filling out a rotation will be Miles and Carlos, and that puts KK at the end of the game in a high leverage situation to close. And we know we have other options for that to happen based on situation, based on his availability. But that's the route we're going. So you'll see the relievers opposed Dak pitching for the home team tomorrow, Dakota, and you'll see KK on the back end of the bullpen for the home team tomorrow.
Mike, what did Carlos do to earn that spot, in your opinion? And was there any difference between the way he approached before spring training and the way he approached heading into this?
No, that's the reason now he earned it. He's communicated understandably, having been a starter in the past and a highly effective starter in this league with multiple all-star appearances, that he was one to start in the conversation that's pretty well documented is, and he's done a good job being a good teammate to go in the bullpen and do a nice job for us. But he's set up to start, and he was given clarity on what those expectations were. And to your point, Benjamin, he really did a nice job of doing that in the first spring training. Tremendous focus regardless. He had almost as good as focus as anybody in camp, irrespective of whether you thought it was a drill that was a little more mundane, PFP, bunting. Of course, now that is kind of gone by the wayside. His sides had a focus to every pitch he threw. And then the results, bore a witness in spring training. His recovery of what he did was really good. He was able to recover. He's able to build up. He was very intentional about what his work looked like in the weight room, what it looked like in the training room, to be able to recover better, to be able to take care of the load that we would expect a starter to have. There was continued conversation with him during the break between the 2 camps. And then, like I said, he sent the videos and I know he told you guys he worked up to seven innings of simulated game away from here, and came in, same focus, same attention to detail. So at that point, the guy earned his spot. And you appreciate the fact that he did it, and, he earned the reward to get back in the rotation. And, specific to KK, did everything he could to have the spot as well. He did absolutely everything you could ask to take care of his spot in the rotation. The fact of the matter is, there's only so many spots with Miles coming back and earning his spot and recovering well and being able to give us the look that we've seen the last 2 years. He's already been a staple in our rotation. So that was the decision with Carlos. And I may go ahead and answer the next question about, KK's role. Carlos was going to be our closer, and now he's in the fifth spot. And the reason Carlos was our closer because he has multiple pitches he can throw, which is good for righties and lefties. And he's used to being in high leverage situations, and he's got an experience behind him that says he can do it and is willing to do it. In Carlos's case, same thing, very similar with KK. Willing to do it, willing to do whatever it is to help the team. Has done it in the past, and end of the stretch, he's been asked to go to a bullpen and close out games. Experienced guy. In KK's situation, low walks, higher ground ball against both sides. Got pitches for righties and lefties, ball moves, experience, high leverage situation. So all those factors come into play that give us be uncomfortable and give us a lot of confidence putting him in that role. And so we want to go ahead and declare that. And we had a conversation with both of them the last couple of days, and everybody's got their head around it in a good spot.
Shildt, the closing role is really new to Kim, though. Does he approach it with intrigue, or how do you kind of bridge that gap with him being, rather a rookie for the ninth inning?
I wouldn't say he's a rookie because he's closed games out in Korea. In conversation with him, he's done it. Now, he's clearly got more time as a starter, but he has pitched and closed out games and asked to, and his manager in series and in, when they are competing for, towards the end of a season in certain roles. So he's got experience. Clearly, he's got more as a starter, I think, to your point, Derek. But you think of, we talked about the other day with KK, your throwing partner, Waino, broke in as a closer. Carlos, if you remember, broke in and pitched out of the bullpen. He's done it. Listen, one of the things about the closer role is not making the situation bigger than it is. And you want to trust a guy that's pitching a lot of high leverage, high level competition, which he has, including the WBC. So there's a fair amount of guys that have been able to go and do that. And like Waino said, just in general, talking about different roles, he said, if guys can pitch, they can pitch in any situation. And we've seen guys be able to do that in the postseason that have started, gone to the bullpen and pitching. And again, I like the fact that he's had a lot of high leverage situations in his past, and he throws strikes, and he's got multiple pitches for righties and lefties. So that all adds up to a guy that you can feel comfortable in pitching at the end of a game.
Hey, Shildt, with all the off days, then do you go straight through the five, or do you look at maybe flexing that a little bit? And does that?
I don't think we'll flex it. I think we'll go straight through the five. It's the first time through for guys. I didn't make the schedule, but I'm pretty sure those days off were built in for that reason, to give guys a little bit of a blow to start and kind of ease them into it. So we'll pretty much run the table with our five and then repeat after that.
Mike, you've never, I don't think, have you ever managed Carlos Martinez as a starter? I think his last start was on June 30th of 18. And with that being the case, how proud of him are you?
I'm very proud of him. To answer your first question, I'm proud of all our guys, but and I told Carlos this multiple times, really pleased that he's been able to take that next step, which is necessary as you get a little bit, more in your career. And it's expected, especially, expected everywhere, I'm sure, but we expected here to take that next step and to continue to learn how to be that professional on and off the field. And he's taken it very seriously, and I'm super proud of him, and he's earned this opportunity. I have seen him start. He started for us in 2012, I was managing Springfield, and he was a big instrumental part in us winning the Texas League championship at, I think, 19 years old. And he had a 1-0 shutout through the seventh, and in game one of the Texas League championship series through 7 innings, we ended up winning, I think, 5-0.
Mike, is one of the advantages of having KK at the back end that it also allows you to slot a number of left-handers earlier in your bullpen with Miller, with Webb, and then with also as good as Gomber has been and Cecil finding a spot as well. KK would have made that maybe a heavy left-handed bullpen. Now with him in the back end, does it make it easier to slot those other guys?
I think those guys will be pitched based on situation. I mean, clearly we got a 3-batter minimum. The guys done a good job. They've got the work in. They feel comfortable. You know, Andrew's got experience doing it regardless of who's hitting. Tyler's done a nice job. I can see your point, but they'll be pitched according to situation to some degree. And, you know, the good news is they can all pitch regardless of situation.
Shildt, KK could actually come in the 6th or 7th and take it the rest of the way too, couldn't he, if you wanted him to?
I don't think that's a recipe. I mean, he could opening day.
Yeah.
But
I mean, once in a while, yeah.
But I do think, to your point, Commish, is that, and I talked to him about it, and you know, also the thing is, like, when he warms up to start, he warms up quick. So he's a guy that we feel like can, you know, already adjust that bullpen, warm up quick, and he is a guy, to your question, that's built up that can throw a 1+ and has his head around being a multi-inning guy at the end of a game if necessary.
Hey, Shildt, just to clarify, 2 quick questions. Was telling him that he's going to be the closer and giving him that title, was that a nod to the work he put in here to try to be a starter? Was that kind of a reflection of giving him, you know, a role, a title, a clarity because of what he had done?
Not necessarily. I mean, no. I mean, we didn't need to make him feel good about creating a specific role because he wasn't a starter. It's really about, we felt like I mean, again, on a given day, you know, we have other guys that could end up closing a game, but the first game you need to line it up with somebody. And he's a guy we felt like has done it and earned that opportunity for all the reasons I've mentioned. And your other question, Derek?
Yeah, then tomorrow we might see him then in short, in kind of the first look as a reliever. Would that be tomorrow? Or
Tomorrow you'll see him pitch the end of the game for the home team.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
We also saw Gomber and Ponce yesterday shift into the 1-inning role. Like you mentioned, that was going to be their bullpen spot from here on out. I mean, the numbers do suggest, but have you been able to tell both those guys officially that they may have been an opening day roster for the first time at this point?
That's correct.
I mean, for those 2 guys especially, who have both had long roads to get here, and all those are different conversations. What were those conversations like with those 2?
It's one of the best things you can do is tell a guy he's getting to be on the big league club for the St. Louis Cardinals on opening day. And I know both were excited about it, and they both more than earned it. And a lot of respect for both of them. They've had equal or similar routes. You know, Gom had a setback last year. Ponce has been a kind of a little bit of an up and down guy. And he's been a good teammate for us in the sense that, it's tough because he knows in his heart, as does Austin, that, I'm a big league pitcher. And, I'm going up and down, or when I am up, I'm, maybe in a little bit more of a longer role. And, but the situation for those guys, they're both on the club, and both of them similar to what Commish was talking about, I think you alluded to. They've been built up so they could throw in multiple inning roles. And with the expanded rosters, I don't feel like we have to have necessarily a long man, but both of them could fill that role if necessary, but both of them can pitch out of the pen when we feel it's appropriate time for them to pitch.
Does Gallegos get an inning in one of these next 2 days?
We're going to find out. I wouldn't say for sure, Commish. I haven't heard how he recovered today and how he's, what his exact plan is, but so I can't really commit to it.
Mike, I know at the beginning of camp you talked about either 17 and 13, 17 pitchers and 13, 16 and 14. Have you nailed that down now too?
Yeah, I think we're going to be. We've got close, so we're not ready to announce our whole roster, Randy, and it'd be unfair for me because guys, pretty savvy. But I think I think it's highly unlikely we'll carry 17 pitchers. That's the best I can do for you right now.
Okay. And I want to ask, because obviously you're in uncharted territory here doing spring training at Busch and with so little time. Now you have 2 workouts and an exhibition game left. How do you think things have gone with this camp?
Well, we have 1 workout and exhibition game, and then optional on Thursday. I think this camp's gone phenomenally. A lot of credit goes initially to our players. I talked to the pitchers today, and just we're grateful for them because a lot of our spring training and everything is built around the pitching and giving them certain looks, and they're used to training a certain way, and we've kept the majority of that consistent. But the flexibility that we've asked for the pitchers that they've understood is, you think about once we get a certain point of spring training, we play every day. And the fact of the matter is we couldn't justify playing every day because understandably we only have so many position players, so we just can't play every day or we'd run our position players in the ground. So we've asked our pitchers to throw more simulated games, which they've had a good mindset for and have been understanding about. And then we've also asked them to create situations for our hitters, because again, it's a shorter period of time and we want to create as many hit situations for our hitters as possible. So, which I think really has still been a benefit to the pitcher. It's not something they're used to, but it's put them in a little more game situations and made them forced to think about runner and third. They like to usually have it created organically instead of forced, but so that's been probably the biggest impact from the pitching standpoint. But in a total holistic look at our spring training, if you think about one field and you now have half the time, which we had, don't minimize it, we still had some time. It was still relatively fresh from our first spring training. But irrespective, we have 6 fields at our disposal in Florida and a stadium field. So really 7 fields at our disposal, and go from 1 field, so you're cutting that down to whoever the mathematicians are in this group, significantly. And then you're cutting down the days in literally almost a half. And then you create an opportunity where you can only report a certain time before we can work out. The fact of the matter is we felt like today in our staff meeting, we've been able to get through everything. And again, the credit goes to the players. We do our jobs. Our jobs to prepare, but we've just basically taken a spring training of all that access and put it into half the time, and really effectively and efficiently been able to feel like we could have gotten pretty much everything we wanted to get in outside of some of the pitching stuff I alluded to in a normal setting. And our players have been flexible, they've been on point, and they've been able to accelerate and think about how we handle things. And we thankfully have been able to cover something and feel like we've nailed it and not have to repeat it a whole lot, which has allowed us to progress the camp.
Hey, Mike, I just want to be 100% sure I heard you correctly. You said it would be highly unlikely that you would carry 17 pitchers?
Highly unlikely we would carry 17 pitchers. Yes, sir. Thanks for clarifying. A lot for you guys today. I gave you some stimulation.
Mike, specific to Gomber and Ponce de Leon, what can you envision their roles being like? You're going to probably have to have some guys ready to jump into starter roles as the season goes along in case of injury and things like that. So I'm curious kind of what you envision for those two. And Mad Dog's talked about having a creative, opportunities for guys to really fill in a short season. Just curious what that looks like.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier. So Ponce and Gomber are built up. I don't consider us to have a need for a long guy designated initially with the number of pitches we're going to have. And our starters are more or less built up. Clearly, we're going to be smart about how they get out of the gate. We're probably going to err on the side of caution with them initially. So there'll be innings to possibly be had. But I think those guys are going to go in the bullpen. And the beautiful thing is they have flexibility to get multiple innings. And they could go into a longer stint if we needed, if something happened early in the game. But also wouldn't pigeonhole them to say they're in that role. They could also throw, an inning here and a multiple inning here. And And so they'll be used out of the pen in a couple different roles. And we've talked to them about what that looks like. The good news is they create flexibility for us. Everybody good?
Can we revisit how you started this real quickly? You said that Tommy Edman is in your lineup. Is he one of those guys who you see floating around to a lot of different positions in that way, even DH, just kind of finding a way to rest guys using multiple places?
You guys are wanting a lot of information tonight. I'm just kidding.
My video's working now. I'm going crazy.
Yeah, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, Derek, I can't say that. Look, he's a guy that, similar to last year, was in the lineup a fair amount. I don't necessarily think, even though he went out and got fly balls on his own and he shagged during lives, I don't necessarily think that's with their outfield depth is a high likelihood as much as it was last year. But I do think you could see him in the lineup fairly consistently, anchored to maybe a spot, but also having the flexibility to move around and create a blow, especially probably at shortstop. And that's not to say Paulie's going to be in there a lot. So, but he'd be a guy that probably get a chance to get a blow at short.
Well, basically, what you're saying is that Edman is not necessarily in that left field competition. It's more
That's correct.
third base, DH.
Third base, shortstop, second base, DH, that kind of thing. But guy that we liked in the lineup.